Good evening and welcome back to conference training, the conference training program and interpreter series. So we are now working on developing interpreter skills. And today to start working on that, we will work on different resources that you will need to find a solution. I remember once I was interpreting for an agricultural meeting, and they mentioned beets. In Spanish is remolacha. I couldn't remember the word remolacha for nothing in the world. So they were talking about this type of foods that grow in a specific way, like remolacha. So what I had to do is I started to describe, for example, different type of vegetables, like the red vegetable that grows and and then I started explaining, which is also used to produce sugar. And eventually the name came up, remolacha. That's why it's so healthy not to pair a word with what you consider to be a meaning. Because when I say cell phone, this is the actual meaning, not really the word teléfono celular. That is like a significant or an equivalent. Because remember, linguistically speaking, one word can mean so many other things or can be used for so many other expressions. So you cannot marry one word with one specific meaning because it could be used to express something else. So it's very good to be resourceful and understand how to describe things. It's very wise to think of barking when you are thinking of a dog, in case the word perro, I'm speaking if you were interpreting into Spanish, does not come to your head. Because then you can say the mammal that barks, and eventually the word perro will come to your head. So we are going to work on developing this type of skills that helps you to be so resourceful that even when that one word does not come to mind when you need it to convey a message, you use all the resources to convey the idea, make yourself understood, and more importantly, represent the person you're interpreting for professionally and successfully also. So in order to do that, today we will begin developing your interpreter skills. So I have an icebreaker here. And let's talk about what we are going to be, the topics before the icebreaker. So we are going to integrate the skills from the previous sessions. We are going to be managing adverbial clauses, dealing with figures of speech and humor. And we will introduce interpreting formal style, like speeches and formal meetings. And as I announced previously, we're going to do a lot of practical. Here's your icebreaker. Get ready. Let's start interpreting. So take a look at this screen and read this to yourself. So today we are talking about 7 rules of life. This is something that I found, and I found it so interesting. I say, you know what? My students need just this. So as I read a rule, I want you to think in the other language. You're not saying it because, of course, we don't want to record everyone interpreting at the same time in different languages, but you will be interpreting for yourself in your head. So 7 rules of life. I'm going to go as slow as possible so you start formulating your ideas. Let it go. Never ruin a good day by thinking about a bad day. Number 2, ignore them. Don't listen to other people. Live a life that's empowered to you, or empowering to you in this case. Number 3, give it time, because time heals everything. Number 4, don't compare yourselves to others. The only person you should try to beat is you. In other words, the person you were yesterday. I tweak it just in case you were just reading, because you are interpreting for the voice. And this is just what happens at presentations. Something is on the screen and the speaker decides to say something completely different, but the idea is still there in front of you. Number 5, stay calm. It's okay not to have everything figured out. You know that in time, you will get them. Number 6, be happy, because only you are in charge of your happiness. Number 7, smile. Life is short. Enjoy it while you can. Now, I want you to take pen or pencil and paper and critique yourself. Write down, did you imitate my pace? Were you going faster or slower than the speaker? Did you imitate my emotions? Were you eloquent when I was given an explanation that was not included in the presentation? So you want to start critiquing yourself, because now, even when it's in your head, you will find that it will happen now. When you start learning to interpret, sometimes you're speaking to friends and you will find that you will be interpreting the conversation until you eventually learn to detach from, the profession and the real life. However, even in those moments when you are speaking to someone and just started interpreting without even considering you're doing it, are you imitating the person's tone of voice? Let's take 5 minutes to talk about this exercise. I do hope you enjoyed your icebreaker. Now, let's take a look at how language is going to be working in your head. So for this exercise, we have provided some nouns and some adjectives. And of course, at one point, we are going to stop recording so we can solve this exercise. So we have to, first of all, take a look at the word. We want to see if the word is pure, as you may, if you want to call it like that. If it's a word derived from another word, if any linguistic resource was used, is the word a single word, is it compound, is a compound noun, what kind of word is it? Now, while we are not trying to become full-time linguists, we need to understand how nouns and adjectives work, because that's how you are going to connect them in your head. Remember, when your speaker is delivering a speech or communicating or sharing an idea, you have kind of like this image or this picture in your head. It's almost like you have a movie telling you what's going on so you can communicate. But you have to understand the resources that you are able to use given the context, so you can choose the appropriate register. Now, let's solve this. Let's take a look at these words and let's provide a solution. And this has been a wonderful exercise while we paused. Let's look at the answers. And you did an excellent job in most of them. So this is an example of how you will connect a noun with an adjective in your brain when you are interpreting, for example. If a presenter is to say, for example, blank feature, you are unable to hear the word that was said before because the microphone was moved, someone made noise, then you will have to process and try to find a solution without asking the speaker. So you, first of all, place yourself in the context to understand what is being said and what is the speaker talking about. And then you decide which adjective would have been suitable to ensure that you don't alter the meaning of what is being said or the message. Okay, so that's why you have to be very resourceful in your language acquisition. And of course, I know you've already asked for apps that can be used. I was already giving apps for English, but I want to release them once we have apps for all the language combinations that we have in this group. Now, let's talk about parallelism and clarity. When we are observing parallelism, we want to make sure, for example, if the speaker says jumping, talking, and studying, you don't want to change the gerund in this case to a noun, which could happen or could be done in your other language combination, unless it's absolutely necessary. You want to be parallel. You want to use this, you want to be consistent with the original message. You want to be clear also, because sometimes when we find a solution for a message, if we do not use the word that is suitable, we can create confusion and kind of like throw the idea can off. So you want to stay in the same line the speaker is. I understand that sometimes we don't have time to find a solution for a specific sentence, but you have to keep in your mind at all times, this person is speaking about this. The message that this person is trying to convey is this. The tone of voice is this. In conclusion, this meeting is about this. Taking all those aspects into consideration will always help you to find the best solution for your message. Sometimes we have a lot of mishap. We might not hear it, or we might see a word that you might not think of. You might not find the equivalent for this specific word in this specific context, but you look at the big picture, okay? Climate conference, heads of state, okay, so they're trying to find solutions. They are looking for perhaps raise funds to implement certain regulations. They are trying to sign agreements. So when you're interpreting, you take all of those elements into consideration to find a solution for the message in a way that you don't alter what the person is trying to say. So having said that, we are going to work with this text to try to find solutions for cases in which sometimes we might be a little off, okay? Now, I wanted to share with you what is exactly parallelism. is the state of being parallel or corresponding with something in some sort of way. So it's the use of successive verbal construction in poetry, for example. Parallelism also suggests a connection of meaning through kind of like an echo form. So I'm using different words to express a similar idea without having to repeat myself. Also, you want to use appropriate structure. You use proper grammar structure, sound. If it's a poem, you have to consider if it's this poem rhyming A, B, or ABC. So you have to be parallel. In other words, you have to be consistent with your text. Now let's get our hands into this text and let's get into this interpreting mode. Well, we had a wonderful experience working with this text. So we have a few versions here for those who speak other languages, and you can take your screenshots so you can work with them when you are working with your partner.
Can you go back one?
Screenshot for French also. And we will continue developing interpreter skills. Now, we have noun phrases that we will now translate. Before we go into interpreting, we will translate them into our working language pairs so that we can understand how to solve issues that may be presented in the middle of a speech. For example, when you have a compound noun, or when you have a word that is derived from another, or that is not just a simple noun. For example, I'm just trying not to use hardcore linguistic terms. Now, let's get into this practicum. So now we are looking at the use of adverbial clauses. Sometimes we have to change the order of sentences or idea to make it sound clear in the other language. For example, in English, I can say cleaning was done successfully, right? I'm giving my boss a report of what was done at the office at the end of the workday. So I'm telling my boss cleaning was done successfully, but now we have Spanish. And if cleaning was done successfully, we were not speaking about anyone specifically. So the intention of the expression of that clause was impersonal. Therefore, I have to use in Spanish, for example, my generic se. So I say, se limpió con éxito. Okay. Now, I'm going to even improve it. Now I have, so cleaning was done, se limpió. Now, if I want to be even more original, I can say, I can convert that into a noun. And I can say la limpieza se hizo con éxito. So cleaning, that ing gerund in English, a gerund is basically the verb ending in ing, which you could also use to express a progressive action with the verb to be, I'm cleaning. But in this case, cleaning It's a gerund used as a noun because it's giving you the idea of the thing that was done. So this thing was done successfully. So in that case, I'm going to use in Spanish a noun, and I'm going to say that this was done. In English, I use the passive voice because the nature of the language allows me to do so. But in Spanish, I have to use the active voice because Spanish is a more active language. So what's happening with general adverbial clauses? These clauses are whole units of meaning that can stand by themselves to convey an idea or a message. They can be moved to any part of the sentence without damaging any meaning, just like how we did the exercise earlier, and we switch around some terms. When you have a general adverbial clause or an adverbial clause per se, you can move it and your sentence still, or your idea still works because it kind of works seamless. Now, one of the things is that they modify the main verb in the sentence. Very often, they're used to set the scene for the rest of the sentence, like to create the environment, a precedence. They are also known as absolute phrases. Let's work with some of them. So this is one of the assignments that you will see posted on your platform for you to recognize the main clause. And of course, you will have a page with the explanation on how it works and some examples and all of that, followed by an activity where you will have to practice with your virtual partner. Right, and you will have some clauses with possible solutions in case you have to interpret and then you may get stuck. This will be posted also for you. We have some examples for you as well. And as you know, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to have access to that as well. Okay. And we're going to be working also on the platform with figures of speech. You will see that they convey figurative meaning. A lot of information will also be posted. We have to work with humor as well. Gio in the ethics presentation gave you a technique, which we call it the nuggets, that if you come live, you get these tips. We don't record them. This will be available for you as well. Using the proverbs and antonomasia, like phrases that once you say that phrase, everybody knows what you're talking about. That is a technique that you use a lot because most of the time at conferences or at a meeting, everybody else knows what we are talking about. You are the only person who is there to be a voice. That more than likely you're the only party who is not part of that specific circle. So most participants know what everybody is talking about. So you could use this technique as well. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with activities that will be posted. We're gonna close. It was a good practicum class today. And you will see some techniques posted for you. And that's a wrap for now. Okay. This is a lax exercise that is going to be posted for you as well. Thank you for listening and for being such a wonderful audience.